there's a great sense in the public that they have bailed out the banks and the financial system, and actually what they're not seeing yet is any of the benefit coming back to them. They're seeing a lot of privileged people, I suppose, not necessarily being held to account, who are still being rewarded, and they're kind of wondering what for.
I think one of the positive things that is coming out of the crisis is that savers are beginning to realise that maybe they have a responsibility for where their money is invested and what that money is actually doing. Until very recently, that kind of conversation at the individual saver level never happened.
There's been huge interest in the Move Your Money campaign from people from right across the board in society, from people who would count themselves as campaigners and very interested in green and ethical issues, to people who've been with their banks for 40, 50 years even.
We're trying to convince people that moving your money is actually now more about, not just about moving your current account, it needs to be about moving your money too. If you don't take control of where your money goes, you've only got yourselves to blame. We make the markets that we deserve.
You can't generate a diverse banking sector but just by banks acting differently. That's really a challenge for governments and regulators. And for transparency, that's something which civil society, consumer groups and NGOs need to be demanding more transparency of what banks are doing and also the business models behind them.
The principals are the people with the money, and the agents are all the people who handle it. We delegate, and the delegation process is the nub of the problem.
We have very limited rights to information, let alone being consulted actively by our pension funds about what they do with our money.
We have a shared interest in working to change the way the economy is structured, and it is governments and policymakers that structure the economy.
Well, banks currently have this power to create money, and in fact, in the years before the financial crisis, they created more money, put this money into the economy. They created more money than the entire government had spent in that time. So they actually have more power to shape the UK economy than the government. And this is far too much power.
The first thing we've got to do is cancel some of the debts that have been run up, and we believe in doing that through a debt audit that would put people back in the driving seat of their own economy. So they have a right to say, do we believe these debts were legitimate or not legitimate? What would the impact of cancelling them be? And should we cancel them? The second thing I would suggest is that we have some form of public banking and some form of much more regulated financial system so that speculative, private, unproductive debts cannot be handed to the public sector in future. So controlling and forcing the financial sector to work for public benefit through ownership, or at the very least strict control of the banks.
Under our system, as opposed to, for example, the system in Nigeria or in parts of Africa, there need never, ever be a shortage of finance. Never. The question becomes, you create the finance, what can you do with that? And who is going to decide? We have systems which would enable us to do that, but we have to understand how they work, and above all, we have to get control of them, and that's where the democratic issue comes in.